Welcome Lund loyalists to John Lund Unleashed. Those watching on YouTube on the John Lund Unleashed and Bay Area Sports Collective channels. Viewers on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and Lundos listening to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. John Lund Unleashed, brought to you by 𝐟𝐸𝐵 Sports Medicine. Got pain? Check out our revolutionary stem cell treatments. And guys, if low T is bringing you down, 𝐟𝐸𝐵 Sports Medicine can put you back in the game. Now all juiced up and ready to go, here's Johnny.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Friday. I hope you are doing great. This is episode 136, John Lund Unleashed. We've got all the platforms going this morning. John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Make sure that you are subscribed. Hit that like button, too, on the broadcast today. Much appreciated. And please make sure you have those alerts on, like tonight when we're going to be doing Bottom of the Pint with Larry Krueger, the Krug Show, as the Giants are in Minnesota, where the Warriors just left. They're going to take on the Twins. So we got that conversation to be had today, but there's a ton going on today. So if you're watching on Instagram at John Lund Radio, at John Lund Radio on X, thank you very much. Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, whether it's my personal page or you can join John Lund Unleashed. However you want to do it is great. We would love it if you would migrate over to the page at John Lund Unleashed and join this great community that we have over here. So make sure that you do that. And again, hit that like and hit that alerts button so that you know that you're going to get all this stuff when we go live or when I shoot stuff out, all those kind of things. John Lund Unleashed on the YouTube. Make sure that you do that, and the Bay Area Sports Collective. Remember, we are brought to us by our good friends at Jeffrey 𝐟𝐸𝐵 and 𝐟𝐸𝐵 Sports Medicine in San Ramon, California. If you're in the East Bay, just zip on over there. It's really easy. And if you're thinking to yourself, it's too far to go, not at all. My wife and I promised this was happening because I would not lie to you. We were actually having the conversation because she goes, yeah, I heard you talking about 𝐟𝐸𝐵 yesterday. And she goes, it really works. You have to tell him it really works. Like, she doesn't lay on the couch in ice anymore, the shoulder, the elbow, her foot. Like I've told you the Las Vegas story before. We're walking around Vegas. She goes, I couldn't be doing this without Dr. 𝐟𝐸𝐵. She does the stem cell treatment. It is absolutely great. Dr. 𝐟𝐸𝐵 did that on Bartolo Colon. He was one of the first in the entire state of California to do the stem cell treatment. So let's call him an expert because he is. It's Jeffrey 𝐟𝐸𝐵. If you click on that QR code right there, you'll go straight to the website and you can get yourself an appointment today. It will change your life. Stem cell. I'm doing the low T. Like I said, I've had low T for a long time, and all they do at Dr. 𝐟𝐸𝐵's office is short, quick blood tests. They get you right to the level that you need to be at. It's not some crazy thing like that. You're going to feel great. You're going to lose weight faster, metabolism. At least that's been my experience with it. You're in a better mood. You got more energy. You just feel like you used to feel. And I used to do it, and you'd go in there weekly, and it's like, you don't want to do that kind of stuff. So every few months I go in there, real quick procedure. It's really easy and simple, and you're going to feel like yourself again in no time. So check out Dr. Jeffrey 𝐟𝐸𝐵, whether it's low T, testosterone treatment, or the stuff that my wife is doing with stem cell. It is absolutely life-changing. They do all sorts of other great procedures as well. So if you just click on that QR code, you will get to the website. You can Google it, look it up as well. Dr. Jeffrey 𝐟𝐸𝐵, 𝐟𝐸𝐵 Sports Medicine. They're right there in San Ramon, California. 𝐟𝐸𝐵 is 𝐟𝐈OPELLE. Dr. Jeffrey 𝐟𝐸𝐵. Make sure that you check it out. Either of those procedures or any of the other procedures that they do, you're absolutely going to feel great. Dr. Jeffrey 𝐟𝐸𝐵, fine sponsor of the program. All right, let's get to stuff. Last night, not great. The reason I was late today is lots of great video, and beyond trying to get some stuff from Steph Curry and how he's feeling. Jimmy's explanation, if you watched the post game last night, he was not exactly Batman. He played more of a Robin role, kicking it out to shooters. He's the guy. He's got to be Batman. So we'll get into that conversation, and he has an explanation why. You see JK and TJD on the chalkboard today. That's Jonathan Kuminga and Trace Jackson Davis. Both should be in the rotation in this series. I tell you this all the time. It's about matchups in a series, and without Steph Curry, you got to throw everything against the wall. And I think that's what Steve Kerr was doing in game number 2, just everything's out the window. And we said that last night on the postgame show, and then Steve said it after the game, like we gotta just kind of we gotta rip down the house and rebuild it. That's kind of what they've got to do, and they got to do it on the fly. They don't have time. So who's playing well, they've got to keep in the game. Who's not playing well, they got to get him out of it. You got to get him out of the rotation. Like, I don't need to see, and I like Moses Moody, but I don't need to see him in the rotation anymore. I've seen it for long enough in the playoffs. He's just not ready. Whatever the case may be, he's just not ready. Pat Spencer, nice story. I'm sure he's a great guy. Can't be in the rotation. Sorry. It's just this time of year, you've got to make quick, decisive decisions, especially with Steph Curry out. It may change it will change when he comes back. But right now, guys like Kuminga and TJD and their athleticism, and in TJD's case, his length and size, they've got to use him in this series. So that's not just a one-night thing. I think that Steve Kerr was throwing a lot against the wall, but we'll get into that as well. And then the big story is Dre's night, from what you saw on the floor with the officials to the post-game where he was very angry to being on the bike and being called certain things. Part of that's the NBA's fault, but we'll get into Dre's night as well. We'll hit up some 49ers. Rookie camps are going on right now. The OTAs, Brock's hanging around. That's pretty cool. That must, again, mean that they're going in the right direction as far as that contract. I can't tell you how badly I want the contract to be done so I can stop talking about this and people can stop emailing me or hitting me up in certain ways, however it is. And I love to be asked questions and certain things, but this whole thing about Brock is driving me crazy. He's getting the money. It's going to get done. It's going to get done before camp. These national guys just have nothing to talk about. But anyway, Robert Saleh is back, and just his very presence gives you confidence. So we'll play some of that cuts for you. Brant Boyer, the new special teams coordinator, probably out of Central Casting dictionary definition. You look it up in the dictionary. There is a picture of Brant Boyer. He looks, sounds, and acts like a special teams coach. But the big key is they'll fix the return game. They got about 8 guys who could return kicks and punts. They've got enough guys in this offseason that they signed to cover kicks. I think they'll be better in that regard. But all of that, to me, is secondary to fixing Jake Moody. And he has a theory on Jake Moody. I'm not sure I buy it, but we'll go into that. Random stuff happens throughout the show. If you're new around here, it doesn't take much to get me off the road, but we get back on as quickly as we possibly can. So anyway, with that as the backdrop and it being a Friday, thank you for coming in today. Hurley Bird, it is great to see you, my friend. Baba Booey is here this morning. Colin 831, good morning, peeps. Hello, Dom. Good to see you, man. We'll be using your logo tonight. Oh, look at, there's Walter. I got a story. Well, Walter probably already knows the story because the person who, well, anyway, I'll have to talk to Walter off the air. I've got a Walter story, but I got to talk to him first about it. Let's see. Joy is here today. Jake is here today. Taylor, it is great to see you. Boom. Who else do we have today? Oh, there's Walter twice. Jeez, it must be a big day. 49ers Faithful is here today. Good morning to you. And like I said, the Nutter is here. That means it's a good day. Remember, today I'll have the show for you. And then tonight with Krug, Bottom of the Pint, where we don't talk bad about the Giants no matter what. Remember, Rockin' New Era is here. Chris, it's good to see you. Kenny, it is always great to see you, man. Yeah, we are going to talk about what the hell happened last night. Believe me, we will get to what the hell happened. Yeah, it was an exhibition game. They just kind of threw everybody out. They had played 13 players by the end of the first quarter in this game. Good morning, folks. I always like that word. Good morning, folks. Let's do it. It is great to see everybody. Good morning. If I did not acknowledge you or see you in the chat room, make sure that you say, hey, dude, what's going on? Say hello to me, will you? So anyway, if you are not in the chat room, you're going, what's going on? Who's he talking to? Come on over. If you're on X at John Lund Radio, if you're on Instagram at John Lund Radio, if you're watching on Twitch or LinkedIn or Facebook or any of those other places, come over. Be part of the community at John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. All right, let's get to everything. First and foremost, before we get to the game, because this is the most important information, that's when Steph Curry is going to return, right? So Steph talked yesterday during shoot-around, and this is what he said in terms of a timeline. So before we get to the game last night, which wasn't great, and I've got theories and all sorts of things. We have tons of sound. We'll get into the Draymond stuff, which is a big story today, both locally and nationally. But here's Steph Curry. This is the number one story regardless. How's Steph's strain, and when will he return?
Kind of viewing this stuff. This is new, and from all that I'm learning about how quickly you can get back, there has to be a healing process is just the way the body works. You can't accelerate it more than what it's telling you. So it'll be one of those after a week, like really reevaluating every day to kind of understand when it's safe just to even think about playing, let alone like how much can you push it.
You've never had any type of hamstring issues in your life?
No, it's the first one.
right, so the thing that kind of stinks about this injury, to be honest, is it's not a pain tolerance thing. It's not let's shoot it up kind of a thing. It's not, hey, if you play on it, it can't get worse. It's all of those things. He can totally rip it, and then he can be done. It can get worse. You can't rush it, as he said. It's not one of those things where it's like, man, doc, I can play on this ankle. I sprained my ankle. I can play on it, shoot it up, whatever. It's a pain tolerance thing. I got to be there for my guys. I'm going to play. It's not that. It's not an ankle. It's not a wrist. It's not his thumb. It's not, it's not any of those things where some of it he can adjust to, and it's a pain tolerance issue. It's none of those things. A strain like this, it's just a matter of time, and he's 37 years old, and Steph Curry's in unbelievable shape. I've had his trainer on my shows on the radio almost 100 times. Now, maybe not 100, but probably 20 times. And he's in amazing shape, and you have to put a qualifier on it for him. For a 37-year-old man, he's Superman. But still, he's 37. If he's 22 or 23, this probably comes back a lot faster. But he's just got to be patient, and fans have to be patient, and that's just the way it's going to be. So the reason I wanted to play that is that's not a great prognosis, but that's what a strain like this is. So with that as kind of the backdrop, what Steve Kerr did last night, and I don't know that I necessarily agree with it, especially at this time of year, but I understand what he did. I think he should know his team well enough to where you shouldn't be out of the game. So they were down 13-0. They were down basically most of the game. I don't know why you have to test a guy like Jonathan Kuminga at this point of the season. You don't have a lot of options. And I knew that Kuminga could come in and play that way. You just had to give him confidence. You just had to sit him down. And I think this is what Steve Kerr did before the game and say, look, JK, we're not taking you out. There's an open spot in the rotation. You're going to be in the rotation. So just play hard and play well and don't worry about it. Don't worry about me yanking you. Don't worry about a defensive lapse. He has the most upside in this series. You have to know that if you're Steve Kerr. And yeah, he hasn't played well to this point. And I've been very critical of him because I think that if I'm Jonathan Kuminga, to hell with the Warriors. I'm not going to play here next year. I get it. But I'm going to try out for the other teams. I'm going to play hard, work hard, rebound, scrap. I'm going to show all the rest of the league who might give me a big contract that the Warriors are wrong and I'm right. That I can play hard, that I can scrap, that I can rebound, that I can defend. We all know he can score. That wasn't a surprise that he came out last night and got 18? Like, that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Led the team in scoring at half with 10. That didn't surprise me whatsoever. So if I'm Steve Kerr, why did I have to test him out last night? Or TJD? TJD is long, big. He's exactly what you need in this series. Series are about matchups. You may not use TJD at all in a certain series, but you're looking at the Minnesota series going, yeah, he's a guy we can use. I don't need to go through Quentin Post. I don't need to see what Pat Spencer can do. I know Moses Moody is just not up to the challenge of the playoffs this year. Maybe next year will be different, but he hasn't played well in a number of games. I don't need to see it. Now, there's certain guys who are going to play regardless. Like Buddy Hield before the Steph Curry injury, he's kind of, maybe we'll play him a few minutes, or if he's rolling, he's going to play a lot. Well, last night he wasn't, but they had to play him. I get it. Jimmy Butler last night, he didn't assume the role that he needed to assume, and I'll play that in just a second here. But I want to stay on Steve Kerr for just a second. Steve last night used that, and I want to jump out to and give credit to, I think it was, who said that? Who did I just pop up? Kenny said it. The bottom line is that he used that as an exhibition game last night, and you can't do that. You need to get one of these games. You're probably not going to get two, but think about it like this. I think their best case scenario is 2-2, and there'd be 3 games left in the series, and 2 would be at Minnesota. And I'm saying that 2-2 and then getting Steph Curry back. But that's assuming the hamstring plays ball, and we're not sure that it's going to. So if I'm Steve Kerr, I've got to have a strategy here. And the strategy last night was, let's throw as much stuff against the wall as we can and see who can play. You're telling me in the playoffs that you're not sure? Because I could have told you before last night, Jonathan Kuminga should have been in the rotation, and TJD should have been in the rotation, and I don't want to see Pat Spencer anymore. Nothing against Pat Spencer. Great story, lacrosse player. I know it. Don't have to tell me it. I get it. He can't play at this level right now. He can't. He just can't. I get it that he scraps. Guy Santos, thanks for coming. No. We're getting a rotation tight. I know that Steve, and I'm going to play this for you, is going to throw everything against the ball and see what things fit. You've had a number of games to do this. You know what players should and could step up. You don't need to throw everything against the wall. This is game 2 that you just gave away because you were basically like a boxer and you fought the whole fight. Like, let's check this out and see what works. And I don't get that. I don't understand that. You know your players by this point of the season, and you have to go. You just have to say, look, Jonathan Kuminga is the most talented upside guy we have. He's in the rotation. TJD at times in his career has been a really valuable player for the Warriors. What he did last night was not a surprise to anybody. The type of energy he brought, the toughness he brought, the rebounding he brought, the defense he brought, the length. That's what he does. That's who he is. That fits in this series. I should be the one going, geez, I wonder what they're going to do. He's throwing everything against the wall in game 2 and essentially giving that game away to Minnesota. Now, there was an opportunity when they pulled 62-55 in the third quarter in which they had some opportunities, and then Minnesota hit the pedal to the metal, and they blew them out again. But Anthony Edwards, for the second straight game, and I know he scored 20, he didn't play well. Julius Randle played well. Naz Reid hurt him at times. But they didn't play awesome last night. There was an opportunity there. And I just think that hodgepodging it around and throwing all these different guys in at this point of the season, I could have told you before the game Pat Spencer wasn't ready. I could have told you before the game that Moses Moody wasn't ready. I could have told you before the game that you had to use JK because he's your most talented upside guy and you have no choice. The fact that they felt like they had to throw all these guys against the wall and see who would stick. You should know that at this point of the season. You should know who could fill in for who. Like Jonathan Kuminga, for example, he doesn't fit with the big boys and is going to get traded in the offseason. But when there's an opening to do what he does, so I've said this for days and days and days. Hey, Kuminga, the way to get on the floor is scrap, rebound, defend. That's not who he is. Who he is. Steph Curry's out of the game. There's an opportunity in a hole for scoring. That's what he can do. So put him in that role. Like, how do I know that? And Steve Kerr's throwing stuff against the wall. I love Steve Kerr. He's an amazing coach and an amazing guy. But I didn't agree with that last night. I didn't agree with the whole throw it against the wall and see what sticks thing. You should have a plan. Steph Curry goes down. What's the plan? It's not a great one, but you should have a plan other than, damn, we didn't. Who knew this was going to happen? Now what? I don't know. Let's throw 13 guys in the first quarter and see what happens. That's not a plan, man. That's a hope. Ugh, that was ugly, man. All right, let's start through this stuff. Give me your thoughts on the whole thing from last night. Now let's start here. Before I get into Steve Kerr, I'm going to just kind of take this in order. So to me, it started, having said what I said about Steve Kerr, here's where it started last night, and it was thoroughly confusing. I got to be honest. Jimmy Butler has carried teams before. He was the Steph Curry. He was the Batman on his Miami teams. He's been the alpha male on every team he's been on. Like, Minnesota couldn't handle him, so he was out of Minnesota quickly. Philadelphia, Joel Embiid's like, who's this nut? Who's this crazy-ass guy? Like, he automatically assumes the alpha dog role on every team he's ever been on, except for this one. And he has said loudly and proudly and many, many times since he arrived on February 6th that, look, I'm cool being Robin to Batman. Totally cool. And that works. And that did work. But last night, he would get into the lane. It was the weirdest thing. He would get into the lane and he wouldn't even look at the basket. It was like Ben Simmons. He would get into the lane, not even look at the basket, and kick it out to somebody. Dude, you're Batman. You scored there. Like, you take it to the rim. There was a breakaway, you probably remember, off a turnover. He's under the basket. Like, dude, lay it up. Pump fake, whatever it is. You're going to get fouled. Just get to the line, get 2 points, whatever it is. He stops, kicks it out. And then they have to reset the offense. It's like, you just got a turnover. You're on the break. Score. Like, he was way too unselfish last night. Incredibly unselfish last night. And I get it. You're trying to get others involved, especially early in the game, to build their confidence. And I've talked about this all the time. Jordan does it. LeBron does it. Lots of different guys. They want to get others involved and get their confidence going, knowing that they can get theirs at any time. In the Houston series, they wanted to get Fred VanVleet's confidence going because they knew a guy like Sengun could get going anytime he wanted against the Warriors. So I get it. You're trying to get others involved, get their confidence going. Then when their confidence is up, you start going because you know you can get yours anytime, and now you're cooking with gas. So I get what Jimmy's theory was. But when it was proven early in that game that nobody could hit a damn shot, you got to take over. Like, that's part of this theory is, okay, I gave them a chance. Now it's my time to keep this team in the game. And he did it early. He hit their first couple of shots. And then he started saying, okay, I'm going to go to the rim. I'm going to get in the paint. And then I'm not even going to look at the rim. I'm going to kick it out to a shooter who then, of course, missed. Here's Jimmy's theory behind it last night after the game.
Comes where, your people that are saying whatever, supposed to score 40 or 43, whatever the case may be, I'm capable of it. I can do it. But I love making sure that my guys are comfortable, passing the ball to them, taking the right shots at the right time. But we'll talk about it. If that may be needed, who knows?
It's needed. It's needed. I get it. Early in the game, and this will happen in game 3. Early in the game, Jimmy Butler is going to defer. He's going to try to get the ball to other guys. That's okay. I'm fine with it. But you're down 13-0. And then he finally had a couple of possessions where he scored. But it was just constant into the lane, not even looking at the basket. Into the lane, not even looking at the basket. And I'm like, dude, you've got to be the man tonight. You've got to be selfish. There are certain times in sports where you've given your teammates a chance and it's time to take over. And then you can take the pedal off the metal for a second once they catch up to you. And again, I hate using Jordan as the example because he's the ultimate example, but that's what he did. And he was the best ever at it, where he'd get others involved. And then he would say, okay, you guys aren't on my level tonight. I'm going to take over for a minute. Then they would catch back up or whatever the case may be. But I understand what Jimmy's saying. I understand what Jimmy did last night. But if I'm Steve Kerr and I'm talking on the plane last night, maybe they slept all the way home. But if I'm Steve Kerr, I'm going to call Jimmy up because the base of the house with Steph Curry out is Jimmy Butler. He's got to start it. And then what happens is maybe a defense can adjust and then those guys can work off of you. But you've got to decide, look, that 40 or 43 or whatever you just said, you don't want to do it in a selfish fashion. Kobe was great at this as well. You don't want to do it in a selfish fashion. But if nobody's on your level on a certain night, you've got to save your team. You've got to play a certain role, and your role is not Robin, it's Batman. And so you've got to decide right away. I guess nobody else is gonna bang it tonight. I got to get it going. So that's where it starts with me with Jimmy Butler. I think he's got to be more aggressive and look to the rim and look to score more in game number 2 if he gives them a chance early, which I'm fine with. But then if they're not showing that they can do it, then you got to start taking over the ball game. And he's done that before in his career and can do it, as he said. The other big story beyond Draymond Green, which we'll get to in a second, is Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga can score. And I've sat there this whole time and said, if you want to play, you got to play a Santos role, like grab rebounds, be tough, play hard, get on the floor. That's not Kuminga's game, and it never will be. But that was the open role. And so he wasn't in the rotation. Now Steph Curry goes down. There's a new poster up, help wanted, and the help wanted was scorer, inquire within. And Jonathan Kuminga ran to Steve Kerr and goes, I can do that. I can fill that role. I pick me. And that's what ultimately they had to do. And this is where I'm saying, how did you not know that going into the game? I know the things Kuminga cannot do, will not do, but however you want to term it. But I know one thing, he can score. And I told you, and I wrote this at JohnLundUnleashed.com before the series or after Curry got hurt. And I put the 5 reasons they could survive. And one of them, and number 4, I think on the list was the forgotten man, which is Jonathan Kuminga. And I pointed out that in 13 starts in December, he played 31 minutes because of injuries. He averaged 21 points and 6 boards. And among those games in December, he scored 21 points and grabbed 7 boards against Minnesota. He can do that. If there's a scoring role open, he can do that. So there was no let's try him out. Look, you have to instill the confidence in him and just say, look, this is the role and it's open and you can do it. And I know you can do it. So I'm not going to pull you out for a dumb defensive play. I'm not going to pull you out for a slow rotation. I'm not going to pull you out because you gave up an offensive rebound. I'm not going to pull, maybe I'll pull you out if you're lazy and you do something stupid mentally. But Steve Kerr has to go to JK and say, you're in the rotation. You're going to be a scorer in this series. I need you. So don't look over at the bench. Don't lose confidence. Go. I'll tell you if there's an issue. But for now, you're in. So don't even look over at me. So here's Jonathan Kuminga after the game talking about getting some run last night.
Film. Staying strong mentally. Just those 3, and I think just being a good teammate. That's the biggest things, that keeps me ready.
I give Kuminga a lot of credit because I've talked about this in a couple of games in the Houston series. Jimmy got hurt. There was an opportunity there. He just wasn't ready. He wasn't mentally ready. And he talked about it. He's a young guy. And I think all of us at that age, not all of us, some people are stronger than others. I know me, just speaking for myself, which is all I can do. I wouldn't have been ready. I would have been pissed. I would have been bitter, all those kind of things. But it's the NBA and it's kind of a different kind of a thing. You're on a public stage and you're trying out for the other teams. So if I'm his agent, if I'm his friend, if I'm his girlfriend, if I'm, he talked about after the game that he and TJD have become close to this process because Trace Jackson Davis is going, why am I not playing? And he's right. He's a good player too. So they've kind of, commiserated over the fact that they're both not in the rotation. So look, he wasn't ready in the Houston series. He is now. So I don't know if Steve Kerr did say something to him or whatever the case may be. But if I'm Steve Kerr and I want to help him because there's a mental game to be played here and Kuminga is playing a roller coaster ride, I would tell JK, and he probably already has, that, look, you're playing. Make a mistake, playing. Screw up, you're playing. Like, we need your 18 to 20 points. Is he going to go 8 for 11 every single night? Maybe not. He had a couple of looks, corner three looks that he missed that, he's not a three-point guy, but he's going to gain some confidence. He's got to be able to play with Jimmy Butler, who's a similar type of player playing in the mid-range and not the distance, but he was out on the perimeter a little bit. But he can get to the rim and he can drive on anybody. He's got that kind of quickness and athleticism. So get out on the floor. I'm not into an ISO game, but there's got to be ways to make this offense better because there were stretches where Minnesota wasn't even really good offensively, but the Warriors really couldn't make a lot of headway because you can give Minnesota credit, and you should. Minnesota was good defensively last night, but still, Kuminga's going to play. So it comes down to that. The other thing, TJD, and I don't have anything from TJD, but he gave him a ton last night. He's going to have to play a bunch of minutes. Or his total minutes. He had 19 minutes. He went 6 of 6 from the floor in 19 minutes. I'd bump that up over 20. Quentin Post, they saw early in this game, he played 3 minutes and went, okay, that's not going to work. So I get it. They still haven't pulled Rudy Gobert out of the middle like they normally do and make him come out and make him pay because he doesn't like to come out, and they can get shots over Rudy Gobert. So they've still got to do that kind of a thing. That's not going to be really TJD's game. I mean, he can hit from the mid-range, but what he did last night is he neutralized Minnesota on the boards. He played a lot of good defense around the rim. He ran the floor very well, pick and roll stuff. He had a couple of dunks. The way he played, he earned spots last night. So the only good side from maybe what Steve Kerr did, which was throwing a bunch of guys against the wall and decided who was going to stick, was that maybe he has a better idea, but I could have told you this. And for example, as I'm looking at the numbers last night, as far as minutes played were concerned, they're low just because, they got blown out. So Draymond stayed under 30, and we'll get into Draymond in a minute. Jimmy Butler, 34. Quentin Post, I still believe in Quentin Post and think he can be valuable in this series from distance as a big against Rudy Gobert, so I'm not throwing him out. Buddy Hield, we knew after the last couple of games, and I wrote this in the top 5 at JohnLundUnleashed.com, that he had to do his best Steph Curry impersonation, 5 of 14, 4 of 9, not getting it done. A lot of that was in the second half, and it was trash stats, basically. Podziemski's got to put it together. Again, I put that in the top 5. Brandon Podziemski in April was incredible. Brandon Podziemski had a 26-point game against the Rockets. And I don't know why he can't throw it in the ocean right now. 4 of 9, 1 of 4 from 3. He just doesn't look confident. He just doesn't. That's it. He had open looks. And I was thinking to myself, with the tilt of the floor without Steph Curry, how's that going to affect guys like, Podziemski and Hield? Well, Hield got the Steph Curry treatment last night. So I understand why he struggled. But Brandon Podziemski still had open looks, and he just couldn't hit them. And that's going to kill the Warriors. So guys like Podziemski, when they have open looks, look, shooting comes and goes. I get it. It's not his fault, but Podziemski's got to hit shots. Quentin Post, when he's in there, he has one job, hit shots. But Podziemski's going to play the minutes. I mean, last night he played 33 minutes. And again, he got pulled because the game was out of hand. But Brandon Podziemski, especially without Steph Curry, he's going to probably replay 37, 38 minutes a night. That means he's going to get a bunch of open looks. And Minnesota clearly has said, beat us if you can. Because we're not going to adjust to you because you haven't done anything in this series. He was good in the Houston game. He just hasn't been able to throw it in the ocean from 3. In April, and again I put these numbers up. He averaged 17 points per game, shot 48% from 3 and 51% from the floor. Where's that guy? Because maybe sometimes guys when they lose a guy like Curry, they just put too much pressure on themselves, and maybe when they play looser, and that's something I would tell Steve. If I was Steve Kerr, I'd tell Podziemski, dude, just relax. Just relax, man. And, because we need you to hit these shots because they're allowing you to get open shots. He is open. When the ball's moving and it ends up in his hands, he's open a lot. And he's just not knocking down the shots. So I'm not putting all the pressure on him. It's a combination of things. It's Steve Kerr's got to stick to our rotation. It's Jimmy Butler's got to be Batman, not Robin, and not be so cognizant of trying to get others involved, especially if they're not hitting shots. It's got to be JK saying, it's got to be Kerr saying to JK, look, man, you're in. Same thing with Terrence Jackson Davis. You're in. Don't worry about it. You make a mistake, whatever. Don't care. Just go. Just go. And then Brandon Podziemski, I don't know, man. Stay in the gym, shoot a couple hundred extra ones, whatever the case may be. We got to do this. You got to hit these shots, or else we're not winning this series. Other guys, like I said, I don't need to see Kevin Knox at this point. I don't need to see Braxton Key at this point. I know if the game is a blowout, they're going to come into the game. Guy Santos, no thanks. Just doesn't work anymore. I'm sorry, man. You worked in the Houston series. You gave us a few good minutes. We need more than that now. GP2 last night, he's always going to be in the rotation because of his defensive abilities. Didn't give you much more than that. And then Moody, 16 minutes. Spencer, 14 minutes. No. Like, if you're going to use what you did last night, which is throw everything against the wall and try to decide who can stick and who won't, Pat Spencer's not a rotational player in the playoffs. I don't care if Steph Curry's not playing, nor is Moses Moody at this point. And I like Moses Moody, but come on, man. What else does he have to prove? That he ain't ready for it. He's not ready for the moment. So there you go. There's my diatribe. Give me your thoughts before I play some stuff. I got Steve Kerr for you, and then we're going to get all into this Draymond Green situation. Let me play Steve for you, and then I'll get out to the chat line and let me know what you think. Here's Steve talking about throwing everything against the wall last night.
It's not as simple as, Steph's out, so we just replace him with one person. The domino effect of Steph being out led to Trace playing tonight because we need the scoring, we need the finishing, and you saw what he did out there. Same thing with JK. We had found a formula over the last couple of months, and obviously we're having a lot of success. But without Steph, the formula completely goes out the window, and we've got to figure out the next.
All right, so there you go. And look, that's what he did last night. He just decided game 2 was just going to be all about who might fit with whom. Again, like I said, at this point of the year, have you not had a bunch of meetings? What if Steph goes down? What if Draymond goes down? What if Jimmy goes down? What if, you haven't had those meetings? You haven't had those discussions? If Steph goes down, we'll just throw everything against the wall. Was that the plan? I find it very difficult to believe that the plan is if Steph Curry goes down, that we're going to throw everything against the wall. Rather than saying, okay, here's what our rotation is going to be. JK's been out of it, but he's a scorer. TJD has been out of it, but he gives us, scoring, rebounding, dunker position, pick and roll, all the length, which we need in this series. They needed him in this series anyway. So I was confused by the throw it against the wall theory. Look, I'm sitting on my couch drinking a beer going, Pat Spencer shouldn't be in the game. Moses Moody shouldn't be in the game. There's things that need to be done. Jimmy Butler, as great as he is, you got to sit down at a timeout and walk over to Jimmy Butler and say, dude, all due respect, I love you, but stop driving into the lane and driving sideways into the lane and looking for somewhere to pass it. Go to the fucking rim hard. Feel me? That should have been Steve Kerr last night. He kept driving. I've never seen anything like it. Kept driving into the lane, and the basket's here, and he's looking over here. Like, where am I going to throw it to another guy to chuck up a brick? Like, at some point, you're Jimmy Butler. You're Batman, dude. The guy that's Batman, I get it, is over there, and he's in street clothes. But for now, you just changed costumes. Stop kicking it out to Pat Spencer for a 3. Stop it. I don't even know if Pat Spencer took a 3 last night, but you get it. You get what I'm saying. All right. Let me have your thoughts on everything, and then we'll get into Draymond Green, because Draymond's going to take a minute. Draymond's going to take a minute. I want to get everybody's thoughts on that. Oh, yeah, by the way, yeah, I did hear this morning. BART shut down. Hopefully you're at home today, man. BART shut down today. What's going on with that? Because does everybody remember? This was crazy. How many years ago was it that there was a BART strike? And it was the worst because we were coming down, I would go into, at that point, I think it was with 95.7, and I would go in there every single day. And then everybody was doing like carpools and all these different things, or you're taking maybe the ferry over or something like that. But I started driving in, and when, there's no BART. So, it was taking you 2 hours to drive in. There were so many people, and it was absolutely bananas. I just remember I think it was in the summer. I think it might've been in the summer. And I remember going to my boss at the time and going, hey, man, it's just crazy getting in here. Is there any possible way that I could do this stuff from home? And again, there was no video at that point or anything. It was just taking a broadcast sheet at home. We had plenty of those. And he's like, absolutely not. There's no way. And then, pandemic years later comes around and everybody's doing it from home. But he's like, absolutely not. We can't do that. And I'm just like, It's taking me 2 hours to get in every single day. I can't remember how long the BART strike was, but it was brutal. Oh, was that brutal, man? Brutal. Anyway, very cool. Good morning to James. Good to see you. I saw you pop in. Christian, did I say hello to you, Christian, this morning? Colin, I saw you earlier. Hi, Scott. I think I did not see you earlier this morning, so it's good to see everybody this morning. And again, got into the Warriors. Would love it to get your thoughts on last night. So far, this is what we've done in the first 35 minutes of the show. It is episode 136. Curry timeline, even he doesn't know with this injury. This is his first major muscle injury of his career. Jimmy Butler's got to be reminded that he is now playing the role of Steph Curry, and he's the number one guy. So stop driving sideways into the lane, and then kicking it out to somebody who's going to miss a shot. Good for JK, Jonathan Kuminga. I've been hard on Jonathan Kuminga because I don't think mentally he's been ready for games, and he hadn't been in the Houston series, but he stepped up big time last night. And if I'm the Warriors and if I'm Steve Kerr, and I'm telling him, keep going, man. We need you at least until this guy comes back. And it's good for him because in the offseason, maybe somebody's going to see this potential and give him the contract that the Warriors won't. TJD, I've always scratched my head on that one. I get what Quentin Post does. I understand that Draymond Green against certain teams, you're going to play him at the 5. I understand that because of the lineup construction. You've got to have enough shooters on the floor. So, you put TJD on the floor, then there's another non-shooter. And Draymond's a non-3-point shooter. And Jimmy Butler's a non-3-point shooter. So, yeah, you can't overload it. And I understand and there's only 5 guys on the floor. But I can't imagine that with his talent, TJD isn't a rotational player with the Warriors. Quentin Post, I understand why he's passed him up because when you get, again, Jimmy Butler is a big dynamic, but he's not a 3-point shooter. So then you've got to find a position. Normally what Jimmy plays, small forward, is a shooting position. So you've got to find somebody else at a different position who's a shooter to kind of balance everything out. So then that's where Quentin Post comes in. But Quentin Post in this series, to me, he's hit a couple of shots, but he doesn't. I don't know that he fits in this series, and I think TJD does fit more in this series. So, and he talked about we needed more scoring on the floor, so we got TJD. I think he has that kind of reversed, which is you brought JK in for more of the scoring. TJD is more of the defender, pick and roll guy. Like he can do some really good things, but I think those guys should be in the rotation. And I think that as we look at this game last night, okay, you did a lot of kind of sparring and those kind of things, and you messed with it, and you said, okay, but next game 3, there shouldn't be this. It should be back to a rotation of you're in at this point, you're out at this point, you're in at this point, you're out at this point. Like you're back to a rotation. You threw everything against the wall. Game 3 should be about, okay, we know who can play and who can't. We know whose strengths and weaknesses work or don't in this series. And we're going to go forward with the guys. Okay, we lost Steph Curry. Now we're going to go forward with the guys over these next 2 games. Hopefully he's back for game 5. And hopefully you're at worst tied at 2 games apiece. But you've got to get a rotation in place for game 3. I mean, there's just no doubt. To me, at least. What else do we have today? Anything else before we move on to Draymond? And this is going to be interesting. I would love to get your opinion on what happened last night with Draymond. There you go. See Nutter? Look at Nutter coming through, man. 40 minutes, scored 26 in game 4. Since then, 16 to 42. Like I said, sometimes shots come and go. But the frustrating part and thanks for those numbers, Nutter. The thing that's frustrating about Podziemski is they're open shots. Like they didn't have Steph Curry for a game and a half. I understand that. But Podziemski has had a lot of open shots. And even in this series, even last night without Steph Curry, he had open shots. And they're just not going in. And that's where I know that Steve's messing with the rotations. He's not taking Podziemski out. Podziemski's not going to be out of the rotation. He does too many other things. He's a good rebounder. He's a ball handler with Steph not being in there. He takes the burden off Jimmy in that way. So look, he can do a lot of different things. So he's going to be in there. He's not an optional piece. JK can be an optional piece. TJD can be an optional piece. Some of the other guys, if they're hitting, they'll play more or less. But he's playing. Like he's playing 35, 40 minutes a night. That's just the way it's going to be. So he's got to start hitting some shots. He's got it because what that does is that gets some of the defense off of Jimmy. Because one thing I will say about Jimmy is Jaden McDaniels is a really good defensive player. So you're watching the game last night and you're thinking, okay, without Steph Curry, you don't have the rotation, you don't have the gravitational pull. And here their best defender is on the guy who's supposed to be your best offensive player now, who's going to carry the load. And you got to give Jaden McDaniels, and I should have done that earlier. You got to give Jaden McDaniels some love for the way that he played last night against Jimmy Butler. He's just a really good defender. But still, that doesn't mean Jimmy can't score what he can score. I still think he can do it. All right, let's get to Dre's night. We're in the middle right there. This is a weird night for Draymond Green. So here's Steve Kerr. So let me back up a little bit. So Draymond Green, very, very similar play than what happened in the Houston series with Fred VanVleet. So he's trying to pass the ball and he gets hit, and then he flails his arms out. And in the case of the Houston series, you saw it. He hits VanVleet in the face. He goes down. Same thing last night. He's flailing out of control and is passing the ball, and he hits Naz Reid in the face. And last night, unlike the Houston game, which I think because he had already had an issue before, so they didn't want to kick him out of the game, but he gets a technical foul, which I think is really weird. I think that's a flagrant foul, but they called it a technical foul, which a technical foul is usually when you go after the official, but whatever. And he's getting very, very close. Technical fouls, flagrant fouls, those combinations, he's like one away from getting a suspension. So that's almost a foregone conclusion. And hopefully it doesn't happen while Steph Curry is out, because then you have Draymond Green out and Steph Curry out. And for some weird reason, you can look through time. Steph, for some reason, when Steph isn't on the floor, Draymond loses it more and he gets kicked out and all those kind of things. It's happened a number of times throughout his career. He says he can keep it under control. Last night, again, he didn't. So he gets the foul, the flagrant foul, and it was flagrant. You have to be in control of your body. It's in the NBA rule book. Just because you flail, you've got to be in control of your body. That's part of the rule book. So for the second time in 3 or 4 games, he's not in control of his body. He's flailing out of control. He's done this a number of times. And Draymond Green can say that there are Draymond Green rules and other rules and that he's being picked on and all these kind of things. I don't agree with that. I think that last night, the foul on Naz Reid committed the foul, Draymond Green with they called it a technical foul. He was out of control. And that's not an excuse. He was out of control against VanVleet. He was out of control against Naz Reid. You can disagree with me and we're totally cool and we can still be friends. That's just how I saw it. All right. That's how I saw the play. You've got to be in control of your body. So stop flailing out of control. They're calling the foul. You don't have to flail. And so when people say that Draymond Green's got to play a certain way, okay, I'll buy it to a certain extent, but nobody else does that. Nobody else, when they get reached in on, hits the guy in the face or kicks the guy in the nuts or, wrestles the guy to the ground, or Tari Eason's case, kicks Tari Eason in the face. Like those things don't happen with other players. So when Draymond Green thinks that they're out picking on him, I can't buy it, and I like Draymond Green and I understand that he's a major, major part of the championships that they've won. And, it happened, against LeBron James, the whole teabag thing, they baited him into it. That's what teams do. It's on their chalkboard. I tell you that all the time, but he's got to stay in control of his body. Okay. So that's one thing. That's just one element of it. So he goes over to the bench and he knows damn well at that time that they're going to call some sort of a flagrant or technical, in this case, on Draymond Green. He knows it. And for some reason, most of this series, most of this season, as he's gotten older, he's been able to control himself. But last night, he's very lucky. Well, they lost anyway, but he's very lucky in that he's going after the official and he's screaming at him. And apparently he said, that's bullshit. And you're going after him in that certain way. And I thought to myself, he's getting kicked out. I mean, and maybe he's trying to get kicked out because Curry's not there. Well, Steph has to come off the bench in street clothes to calm him down. And finally, Steve Kerr has to say, Draymond, you're not, we got to take you out of the game. Got to go sit down and calm down. So again, when Steph Curry's not in a game and Jimmy Butler's here and Jimmy Butler's a leader, there's no doubt, but you've got to keep your composure. Your young players are watching you. So if Draymond Green, who's a team leader and always telling me what to do, I'm a player on the team. I'm a young player on the team. Draymond's always putting his arm around me and taking me aside and telling me what to do. And he's yelling at me on the court that I missed a defensive rotation, and he's doing it in a demonstrative fashion. And, there's all these, and then I watch him in a critical part of a series and he's blowing his stack. I can't have it. I just can't have it. So I'm sorry. I know that there are Draymond Green rules, but I think he's earned that reputation in a negative sense. And I think that he's got to keep himself under control. I say this all the time. Jimmy Butler plays white hot. He's a big-time competitor, but he doesn't freak out. Most players in the NBA probably, I think, are very, very competitive. And there's a hell of a lot of players who are as competitive or more competitive than Draymond Green, and they don't do that, especially as they get older. Young players may. Young players bitch and moan and scream. And the thing I always say after these things is, where has it ever gotten you? Like if I was Steve Kerr, and I know that you're not being rational because you're on a basketball court and you're running red hot and all those kind of things, but the thing I would ask Draymond Green, and he could never give me a good answer, where has this ever gotten you? Where's being demonstrative towards an official gotten you, or screaming at an official, or saying they're wrong, or running to them after every play, or continuing to talk? And, even if you're walking away and you're talking, you're talking and cursing or whatever it is you're doing, what has that ever gotten you? Have you ever gotten a favorable call? You've sure as hell never gotten a call reversed. Like, what's the point? What would be if you did something, I don't even know how to equate this to real life. But if you were in real life, you did something and did something and did something and did something and you never got anything in return, right? Your ROI, your return on investment. What would be his return on investment here? Investing his time in bitching and moaning at officials. What's your ROI there? Zero. Nothing. He's never gotten a favorable call. He's never gotten anything. Oh, yeah, Dre, that's a hell of a point. We're going to reverse this thing. Like it's never happened. So why would you do it? Like, I don't know. That's logical thinking in a game that is very competitive and he's running hot and everything. So that's not the best comparison. I'll admit that. But still, after a while, like, wouldn't you sit down maybe after a game and go, where did that get me? It got me lighter in the checkbook. It got me another, flagrant or technical foul. It's going to get me on the bench for a game, which my team cannot afford at this point with Steph Curry. Who the hell knows when he's going to come back? So I don't get it. And I don't buy that he just has to play this way, that he has to play on the edge and he has to play pissed off. No, he doesn't. I've seen him not play that way and play just fine. Thank you very much. I've seen it many times. So I just don't buy it. I think it's a bad excuse. So look, I want to be on Draymond's side, but it's really hard to be on Draymond's side. Here's Steve Kerr last night talking about Draymond Green. He was asked about him being out of control last night.
It's part of Draymond, the same thing that makes him such a competitor and a winner, puts him over the top sometimes. And, we know that. And it's our job to try to help him stay poised, stay composed. But the competition is so meaningful to him that, occasionally he goes over the line.
Is it not meaningful to Steph Curry? Is it not meaningful to Jimmy Butler? Is it not meaningful to Anthony Edwards? Is it not, on and on and on and on and on. Like, he's not alone in that. Everybody's competitive. Everybody plays hard, works hard. I mean, Steven Adams said it in the last series. Like, everybody gets pissed off. Everybody's working so hard. It's the playoffs. Like, every single guy on that court is out there and has gotten to this point in their career because they bust their ass and they work hard. And, so, I mean, Steve Kerr singles him out. I understand he's his coach. He's got to say those things. But he singles him out like he's the only guy that feels that way, is the only guy that runs red hot, the only guy that's competitive, the only guy that disagrees with officiating, the only guy, like, all of them do. They all go to him. I don't get it. Like, you never get a call. Why would you even go to an official? And if you got a bad call against you and it was really egregious, then you go to the official like Steph Curry does. And you know what happens? He gets calls right back. Because I told you this in the Houston game. He was demonstrative in one call. I don't even remember what it was. Turned around, there was an offensive foul the next time down the court, and Steph Curry was guarding the player. I can't remember who it was, but he ran over Steph and then went the other way. Like, that's how it works. If you show people respect, it's human nature. It's all those things we've gone over it a million times. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Everybody's competitive. Everybody wants to win. Everybody's burning hot in those situations. That's just the way it is. And you're the only one that is constantly showing up officials and screaming and yelling and not stopping. Like, most guys, they get a technical foul, they get something against them. It's like, okay. And that's why they do it. Like, we're trying to get control of the game here. But he just can't stop. So then there was this situation. And for this situation, I'm going to blame the NBA to a certain extent. Like, why do you put players, like, put the bike in the tunnel or something like that? So there's Draymond Green, and he's out on the floor, and he's trying to stay warm. And I guess somebody called him a bitch or something like that. And so now he's not focused on the floor. Now he comes off the floor and he's riding a bike, and now he's got to deal with the fans. And so now he's got to deal with that. Like, you have a basketball game to play. And even the times when he's off the floor and he's just trying to stay loose, then he's getting called a bitch and he's getting yelled at, and all those, security standing around him and all that kind of stuff. And now he's engaging with fans. He's totally mentally out of the game. And I'm sorry, and you know this just like I do. Life is 90% like mental, So you're playing a big basketball game and you're in Minnesota. And so you're on the floor and you're frustrated. Then you get off the floor and people are trying to antagonize you out of the crowd and you're interacting with those people. It's like, you can't win. I mean, that bike shouldn't be there. First of all, it should not be where the crowd can scream and yell at him. But the other thing about Draymond, and look, maybe this is just taking it too far in my head. Like, you can't interact with them because now you're playing a mental game with the crowd. There's a bunch of them. Once you start in, once you react to one, 50 of them are going to yell and scream back at you. I'm not excusing what the fan said. I guess the fan was kicked out of the game and all that kind of stuff, but it's hard for me to believe that Draymond Green can then go to the sidelines to calm down, stay warm, whatever the case may be, and then he's getting screamed at by the crowd, and he's supposed to come back into the game and be focused and be a quality basketball player for his team. Sorry, I just think that's difficult. So that's just me. Good morning, Nathan, and thank you for the super sticker. You can always get your stuff, your comments, your questions, your thoughts on the show. All you have to do is supers or super sticker, in this case, our good friend Nathan. Thank you, Nathan, and good morning to you. I hope you are well. Thank you for the donation to the show. Really appreciate it. Any thoughts on Draymond Green? I'm going to play one more thing for Draymond Green for you. Let's see here. Anything else? I mean, look, I'm just saying anything that you do, it's mental. Like, if you believe you can do it, like Jonathan Kuminga, for example. Now, if you're Steve Kerr, like, you build his confidence. Everything is about that. I mean, that's just what it was. I did read that article this morning, and thank you for bringing that up, that a witness stepped up and claimed there was also a racial slur, which that's what I'm saying. Like, you're putting that bike in that position where he's got to sit there and take that kind of stuff and hear that kind of stuff in the crowd. And by the way, if somebody says that in the crowd, like, look, man, root for your team. Right? Root for your team, all that kind of stuff. But then you add alcohol and there's all that kind of stuff. I've seen it. I've heard it. It's disgusting. And it pisses me off so much that, show some respect for these guys. I mean, look, I understand you're in Minnesota and it's been a long winter, and living in Minnesota has got to suck ass. I mean, I could not think of a worse place. And they see the sun and they see their team, and their team sucks usually. And they often lose to the Warriors. And it's been a long time. And Minnesota's never won anything. As far, since the Twins won the World Series, I think. They haven't won a whole lot. I'm trying to think what else they've won. They haven't won a whole heck of a lot. It's a long winter, and then, you go inside, you drink a few beers, and then you throw some stuff at the opposing player. And I just mean verbally, not literally. But yeah, I think it's absolutely disgusting. And he shouldn't have to put up with it. Now, from that standpoint, that's totally different. But that's what I mean is, like, here he comes off the floor. He's just trying to stay loose, play a basketball game. And fans have access to him in terms of being able to scream and yell stuff at him, and Draymond Green can't ignore it. And in that regard, look, I'd be stupid to sit here and go, well, yeah, you're having racial slurs thrown at you, and you're just supposed to ignore it. I'm sorry, that's not what Draymond Green, and that's what most people aren't going to do. That most people are going to then start interacting with the crowd. And again, there's a mental side to that whole thing. And now he's all pissed off, and it's like, hey, Draymond, go back in the game after some guy just screams something at you like that. That's unacceptable from a fan standpoint. I mean, it's just, you got to be kidding me. What else do we got? All right, here's let me give you this. Let's see. Let me give you this from last night. Now, this is Draymond after the game, and you've probably seen this. Now, from what I understand, and this is Anthony Slater, who, as I always tell you, does a great job covering the Warriors for The Athletic. He got this video, and Draymond Green was pretty short and sweet last night, did not go to the podium. This was just in the locker room. Now, from what I understand, this short diatribe was aimed at the officials. Here's Draymond postgame.
Black man. I'm not an angry black man. I'm a very successful, educated black man with a great family. And I'm great at basketball. I'm great at what I do. The agenda to try to keep making me look like an angry black man is crazy. I'm sick of it. It's ridiculous.
Well, he has say in it. That's the one thing I would say about that is he has say in that. And last night he lost control. I don't know that the officials are necessarily targeting him. I think they're targeting him in a way, and I don't think it has to do with his race. I think it just has to do with at times he's out of control. Now, again, from what I understand, that was aimed at the officials last night, but you can tell that there's some anger there from exactly what we talked about as far as, racial slurs possibly being thrown at him. He's being called a bitch. I mean, it's so all night long, you could just clearly hear the frustration in his voice, which is he's off the floor. He's getting possibly, racial slurs thrown at him and he's being called a bitch. And then he's coming onto the floor and he's frustrated with the officials who he feels are targeting him. In this particular case, I take them all individually. He was out of control and hit 𝐬𝐻, just like he was out of control and hit Fred VanVleet, just like he's been out of control and kicked guys. And whether it was Nurkic or whether it was Steven Adams or there's a number of different guys. I'm sorry, when you choke Rudy Gobert, which he didn't in this series yet, but did before, like these things all add up and it's human nature. And you can't just go, I forget everything about Draymond Green. And then it's just that specific incident. And he wants a fair trial when it comes to a specific incident. I'm sorry, when you do all those things, you're not going to get a fair trial. It's just the way it is. And he knows it. But I think last night that was a combination of things, I think, of why he was so frustrated in the locker room. He feels like he's being targeted by officials. I agree with him in the fact that he shouldn't have to go back and try to stay loose on a bike and be, a dartboard target practice for drunk fans in Minnesota to yell racial slurs at. That's not acceptable whatsoever. And just removing a fan is not enough. I don't think it is. You know what they should do? Because they do this in certain states. If you have like a DUI or something, they put your picture up on like Facebook and stuff. Like, let me see who that person is. Let's embarrass that person. Let's have that person lose their job and lose everything about them, because that's not acceptable. That you just got kicked out of a game against, the Timberwolves in Minnesota halfway through the game. You could probably go back into the arena. I know they have like the facial recognition stuff, so maybe you can't anymore. But that person can probably get right back into the arena. Like, let's embarrass the hell out of them, at least. Because like you said, it's just not acceptable. It's just not acceptable. That part, I agree with him 1,000%, even though you can't agree with someone 1,000%. That's unacceptable. But in terms of his behavior, and this is what I try to stay between the lines, on the floor, on the ice. He's got to understand that he was in the wrong, that he's got to control his body, that hitting 𝐬𝐻 in the face and flailing, just like he did against Fred VanVleet like a week earlier. I'm sorry, you don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. You flailed and kicked and punched and grabbed and bit, and he hasn't bit anybody. That was Tree Rollins or Danny Ainge. Yes, it was Danny Ainge against Tree Rollins, but you get the point. Like, there's a whole reel on YouTube. Don't leave now, but there's a whole reel on YouTube of just Draymond Green. This is not even about officials or hard basketball or any of these things. Just like, it just happened, man. My leg just happened to kick him in the face. My hand just happened to punch him in the face. My leg just happened to kick him in the nuts. Like, after a while, it's like, dude, I'm sorry. You've earned the reputation. The racial slurs and having to deal with that stuff, that's one thing. I'm just saying, on the floor, Draymond Green, he's earned this reputation. He's earned it. And when Steve Kerr says stuff like, that's Draymond, I can't buy it, man, because why does everybody else, for the most part, I don't know, is 99% too high? Why does 99% of the NBA control themselves? I mean, maybe that's high. Maybe it's 98%. Maybe it's 95%, but you get my idea. I mean, by a large margin, most of the NBA does not flail their body and kick, punch, whatever, guys in the face, the nuts, the groin, whatever. They don't. They don't. And so even though you're a Warriors fan, this is one thing I think most Warriors fans agree on. Everybody loves Draymond Green. They don't win championships without him. We've had this conversation a million times. But in terms of him being the victim, which he tried to be last night, and again, I'm taking the locker room stuff aside. I'm not saying that. I'm saying on the court, when he's demonstrative towards officials and yelling and screaming so much to the level where Steph Curry has to come off the bench and Steve Kerr has to take him out of the game, and you're supposed to be a leader on a team when Steph Curry is missing, that's unacceptable. And so as we look at last night's game, Jimmy Butler needs to step up and be selfish. JK needs to continue. TJD needs to continue. Steve Kerr needs to figure out what the rotation is. Brandon Podziemski's got to stay after and shoot about 500 threes because he's wide open. I mean, there's a number of different things. Certain guys, Moses Moody, sorry. Pat Spencer, sorry. Certain guys right now can't be in the rotation. I mean, I'm sorry. Steph Curry's out. That doesn't mean you play 13 men to see who's hot and who's not. You just can't do that. Buddy Hield, look, Buddy Hield is what Buddy Hield is. Last night didn't surprise me. He's not going to hit shots like he did in Game 7 against Houston or in the second half of Game 1. I can't rely on that. As a fan, I can't get pissed off. Like I was talking to somebody the other day. We were talking about golf. And he golfs a lot. I don't golf as much as I used to or would like to. But I said, look, I can't get pissed off at, like the short game is in golf. The short game is about like you just got to have repetition. Like I can hit it off the tee pretty good and all these kind of things. But when you don't play certain things, rear their ugly head, which is the short game and putting. And so I told this guy, I said, I can't get pissed off because I don't play enough. I can't get pissed about my short game or my putting because I just don't play enough to be any good at it. I don't have a feel for it. So I can't be, pissed off about it. There are certain things you can get pissed off about, and there's certain things that you can't. And if you can control it, then okay. But if you can't control it, then why are you going to get pissed off about it? My theory to Draymond Green would be nothing's going to change. Like you can get really pissed off. Nothing's going to change. In fact, the opposite effect happens. Like him getting pissed off at officials constantly and yelling and being demonstrative and demeaning them and all the things that he does and cursing at him, all that actually is working against him. So do you think the next time that there's a call that's questionable against Draymond Green, the league or that official or the replay person or who was ever a person who's in the position of authority would ever give the benefit of the doubt to Draymond Green? Why? Why would they ever do that? You treat me like shit and then you want a call from me. It's like someone who calls you haven't talked to forever, right? And then the only time they call you is when they need something or want something. Would you be in a position to help them? Yeah, you would. But would you actually help them? No, you wouldn't. Like, dude, this is the first time I've heard from you in 4 years and you want something. I'm sorry. You're not getting it. Like, that's the same thing with Draymond Green. Like, negative energy towards an official or whatever, in a position of authority constantly, and then turns around and goes, what? Well, I don't get the benefit of the doubt? Like, dude, come on, man. No chance. So anyway, they didn't lose because of Draymond Green last night. But I do wonder if Steve Kerr says one thing to the media, which was, hey, man, that's Draymond, and we live with it, and that's part of Draymond's DNA, and this, and this. And then I wonder if behind the scenes he sits down with him and says, bro, I love you, man. We don't win these championships without you. But especially without Steph Curry, you can't do that, man. We can't be on the verge of losing you too. Like, you can't get another technical. You can't get another flagrant. You got to control yourself. Now, he's the one who says he can. He has said it constantly that he can play right up to the edge and control himself. Well, he's right up against the edge right now because he's on the verge of missing a game because of all this. And that game and Steph Curry being out, how do they win that game? Like, maybe they possibly could, but then there's another thing of Steve Kerr going, damn, okay, I don't have Curry and now I don't have Green. So now what do I got to do? Throw it up against the wall again and test everything out? Because, we didn't have a plan without Steph Curry, which I thought they would have. And now you're going to lose Draymond Green and Steph Curry. I got news for Steve Kerr. You might want to look into that. You might want to say, okay, get together with your coaching staff and say, if we don't have Steph and we don't have Draymond Green, what's the plan? Because that's the only thing that I had a major problem with last night with Steve Kerr was it didn't look like there was a plan. The plan was throw everything against the wall because you lost Steph Curry. Like, you guys never had a discussion that if we lost Steph Curry, then we would do ABC. It was, let's throw everything against the wall and give the game away. And now what if Draymond Green is gone? And it looks like he's on the verge of doing that because he can't stay under control. So then you lose those two guys. What's the plan then? Throw everything against the wall again and give it another game away? You can't do that. All right, give me your thoughts. What is today? Friday. Oh, my God. Do remember that we are on with the bottom of the pint tonight. So I got to text Krug. I have not gotten a text from Krug this morning. Let me double check this whole thing. I'm starting to get a cold, but I'm not going to acknowledge it. I just will not acknowledge it whatsoever. Okay. I haven't got anything from it, but we will get together. Bottom of the pint. I think bottom of the pint is happening tonight. As speaking of Minnesota, San Francisco, Minnesota tonight. So we'll get into all those kind of things. All right. Boy, this is a great point. Back in the day, there were multiple tough guys in the league to check each other. Now it's only him. Just think if he played. Yeah. The guy that I remember, just because I worked in Portland for a long time and got to know, was Maurice Lucas. I mean, he was the guy. Maurice Lucas. I mean, look, they used to square up during the game. I mean, they used to square up. Daryl Dock in the 1977 NBA Finals. Go back Go back to it. In the 1977 NBA Finals, Daryl Dawkins, Chocolate Thunder, and Maurice Lucas just squared off. They didn't get suspended. They just got pissed off at each other. They had enough, and here we go. They squared off like they were in a boxing ring. And the league back then, like when people say, this series is so physical between the Rockets and the Warriors. Hey, man, they're letting them get away with a lot. And it's like, yeah, go back. I don't know if they still have like the NBA Classic channel or something, and go back and like if you can watch that series. I mean, it was unbelievable. Like those two guys were the tough guys on their team because you had Bill Walton and the Sixers had Dr. J. And it was almost like hockey. Like Bill Walton wasn't going to fight Dr. J, but Maurice Lucas could fight Daryl Dawkins. It was like, all right, those guys squared up. They didn't miss a game. I mean, maybe they need to do that. Maybe it needs to be like hockey. Like, all right, square up, punch a guy in the face, and let's move on. That kind of a thing. I don't know. Maybe you need to get some aggression out. That's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. All right. I hope you're not right, but you probably are. Kenny, it's just a matter of time before the mean green Draymond Green gets ejected. They talked about it during the game. Brian Anderson, BA, last night was talking about it last night with Tom Izzo being in the building. And a lot of times what will happen is Izzo will come to a game or something and he'll talk to Draymond Green and just go, dude, you just got to chill. You can't be out. I mean, I really thought last night, and I hate giving officials any kind of credit, but I thought last night Draymond was going to get kicked out. And I almost thought he wanted to get kicked out because Steph was out and he was frustrated, and he was just going after him hard. And I'm just sitting there going, he's gone. He's absolutely gone. And they were saying that on the broadcast as well. And then that's when Steph stepped in, and then a minute later he was talking with Steph, and then he started to walk back on the court, and then Steve went, I got to take him out. Like, he's going to get kicked. He's going to get kicked. All right. Couple other things we got to get to on a Friday edition of the show. And again, I hope you're doing great today. Want to reset everything. It is episode 136. So the Curry timeline we played for you a little bit earlier. Even he doesn't know. He's never had this kind of a muscle injury before. So, and they a lot of times don't cooperate, especially when you're 37. Jimmy Butler, I've never seen so much sideways into the paint and looking for another guy. He's got to be more aggressive. He talked about it in the post game and said he wanted to get others involved, but I think in game 3, it's time for him to let others catch up to him. JK and TJD are going to be in the rotation moving forward, and they fit in this series, especially JK, now that there is a scoring option open. There's a job description for a scorer, and he can fill that. Can they win one? That is my big question of the day. Can they win just one at home? This thing would be 2-2. Steph Curry comes back a week from Wednesday, which is checkup day. Hopefully that would be the case. And if they could be 2-2, but again, it'd be a 3-game series with 2 in Minnesota, but I think they could win there. I think that might be the best case scenario. Give me yours. Dre's night we just went over. Bottom of the pint we'll do tonight for the Giants game in Minnesota with my good friend Larry Krueger. And now we are at Robert Saleh is back. So some 49ers news is they have rookie minicamp and everybody's in the house. Nick Martin is wearing the linebacker out of Oklahoma State who's going to wear 45. Had some sharp shoes on. He's kind of an interesting character. Brant Boyer spoke about Jake Moody, which I'll play for you in a second. But the overall confidence, by the way, Mikael Williams, 98. He wore 13 in college. That's not going to work here. But just having Robert Saleh in the building, and I know that Robert Saleh's defenses in 17 and 18 weren't very good. So it's not like Robert Saleh is going to walk into the 49ers, into 49ers HQ and bing, and all of a sudden everything's just, by some kind of a magical spell, everything is just going to be like dun da da da, right? It's just not going to do that. So here's Robert Saleh and why he came back, why he's excited. But as you're watching this, he just gives me the utmost confidence. Now, look, you got to have players. I've never seen a coach that had horrible players, win anything. But here's Robert Saleh, and he just gives you confidence in the way that he looks, the way that he acts, the way that he is.
Tremendous amount of respect for this organization. Obviously, starting at the top with Jed, he's phenomenal. But, Kyle, his family, John, Prague, they gave me so much. And during the first 2 years, if you think about those first 2 years as the coordinator in 17 and 18, it wasn't easy. And it could have been very easy for them to move on from me, And So I'm indebted to this organization and to those men for the rest of my life. They stuck with me, and we made it happen. We did what we needed to do, and the rest is history. But I'm excited about the opportunity.
So there's Robert Saleh. I don't know about you. He just gives me confidence in that, just his very nature. Now, again, 17 and 18, they weren't very good defenses. Obviously, they were very good defenses after that. He was the leader of good defenses. Obviously, we just popped there for a second. He was a leader, obviously, of really good defenses with the Jets. So bottom line is, I feel great about it. And the other thing that we learned yesterday was he was a big part, clearly, in what they did as far as the draft is concerned. So Robert Saleh likes these guys that they drafted, thinks they're going to fit into what they're doing. So that's a really good thing. So I feel good about Saleh. The defense we'll have to see, because he's not a miracle worker. Sorry, we popped right there, and I have to just pop. There we go. That's the only thing I have to do, because I only have one more piece of video to play. But look, I'm a big Robert Saleh guy. I think he's going to make them better by his very presence. And here's the one thing. Offensively, they're going to score points. Along the defensive line, it's Nick Bosa, and now maybe it's going to be Mikael Williams, and he's going to be good, and Collins is a massive guy, and West is a really big guy. So if a lot of rookies can come through, that's great. Fred Warner's going to be there. Is D. Winters going to take a step forward? Is he going to be better because Robert Saleh's here? Nick Martin's the linebacker out of Oklahoma State, really good athlete. You move to the secondary. That Mustafa injury is massive. That knee injury is absolutely massive. And a young kid out of Kansas State that they took in the draft. I'm fine with the outside corners. I don't love Trey Brown, the guy they got from Seattle, because I think he's hurt a lot. So, look, they've got a lot of work to do on that side of the ball. I think that they may have to outscore some teams. I think they'll probably be middle of the pack defensively. I'd love to be surprised by that, but they're counting on a lot of rookies. And you know how I think. What if, right? What if is a terrible thing for you if you're a sports fan in any sport. So what if the young linebackers? What if the young defensive linemen? What if the safeties? What if the third corner? Like, they've got what ifs on every level, and probably a couple of them on every level. In fact, on the front, they have other than Nick Bosa, they have every other question is a what if. And outside of Fred Warner in the linebacking core, that's all what ifs. And in the secondary, it's Demo Lenore, maybe Renardo Green, and then what ifs. Both safeties are what ifs. I'm not a J.R. Brown guy. And now that Mustafa's out, what are they going to do at strong safety? I mean, there's a lot of what ifs on that defense. Saleh can only do so much. So honestly, if they're a middle of the pack defense this year, if they could even get to like maybe into the top 10, top 12, I would think that Robert Saleh did an amazing job with this defense, because there's Bosa, there's Warner, there's Demo. And then it's all a bunch of question marks. And what they pride themselves on, especially out up front, is depth. They like to bring in, there's the alphas and the bravos. The alphas are the starters, the bravos, they bring it in, then they also have a pass rushing unit. So they usually have, and there's guys who obviously mix into both, but they usually like to have like 3 units, different units, alpha, bravo, and the pass rush unit. And that's kind of what they like to do. They don't really even have an alpha unit yet. Like, who's even going to start up front? I mean, if I had to venture a guess, obviously going to be Bosa. Mikael Williams has got to be good enough to be a starter on the other end. Inside, at least Alfred Collins is a second-round pick. Alfred Collins out of Texas, that big kid, he's got to be a starter. And then C.J. West out of Indiana, mid-round guy who I really liked. He's got to be at least a rotational piece. And then there's Kevin Givens in there, and there's Jordan Elliott. Like, that's it. And usually they've just got a lot more depth up front. So that's kind of what's going on there. Ooh, let's do this. That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that question. What's the update on Brock Purdy's contract? Thank you, Shimboy, for asking that question, because we might as well. I always take it. I continue to say this. I take this as a positive because Brock is in town. And people have this misconception that Brock is this nice guy and he loves football and he's not going to miss any time. And there's also it's not a misconception, because it's true, but stay with me on this. When people talk about the agent and who the agent works for, well, the agent works for the player. Whatever the player wants, the agent's got to do. And it's not true. The agent is telling the family, and remember, his dad was a baseball player, so he understands how this works. He's not like, an accountant or a teacher or, whatever it is. He was a professional player, so he understands what the agent's role is. And the agent is telling Brock, and, there's give and take on both of this. I'm not saying it's, but it's not fully democratic either. where the agent is telling Brock and his family, look, this is what we have to do. This is the way we have to play this part. This is the way we have to play this part. So if there was not, I said this a few weeks ago when he came in, when he didn't have to, and that a couple of weeks ago when they weren't even getting on the field, that Brock Purdy coming into town was a positive thing, because even though Brock didn't want to be away from his team, there was no reason he needed to be there at that point. But he came in, and you heard all the coaches say it. It was great for leadership and great to have him around and great for morale and all those kind of things. But I'm guaranteeing you, because you know how this works just like I do, this would have been a tactic for an agent to say, look, we're not getting anywhere in these contract negotiations. He's not showing up. And so, that 2024 season when you had Brandon Ayuk holding in and Trent Williams holding out, and that just started a really bad theme for the entire season. Yeah, we're going to do that again. And that's not what happened. Brock Purdy came in, and guess what? Brock Purdy's in town now. So to me, I think they're dotting I's and crossing T's on the deal. I really do. I think that they're going to get the deal done. I think they're going to get a deal. Late May was kind of the target point, even though that's not the drop dead. And when do deals get done? At the drop dead point. That's generally how they work. I think it'll get done before camp. I think it'll get done in June at some point, actually, before everybody starts freaking out, even though everybody's freaking out now. The fact that he keeps coming in tells me that they're dotting I's and crossing T's. And it's not as simplistic as I've made it sound in the past, and I can't even remember, I wrote a whole piece on this at JohnLundUnleashed.com. You can find it in our blog section of the website, JohnLundUnleashed.com, where I predicted the number, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. It's like 5 and 290. So the number is going to be 5. That's what all of them are. 300 million means it's 60, and the Niners, just from a perception standpoint, don't want to go to that number. So I think it's going to be like 5 and 290. And then I can't remember what the guarantees I said were. The guarantees were going to come in ahead to me of Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, and Tua Tagovailoa, but they weren't going to, they were going to come in right after like a Joe Burrow, something like that. I think it's like 150 million or something like that off the top of my head. He's going to get guaranteed. It's going to be around 290 million over 5 years. And there's no debate anymore. There keeps to be this, should they pay him? All these stupid talking head shows that are going on nationally that don't know what's going on. They're not having those discussions. The Niners are not having internal discussions of whether they believe he's worth it. They're not. That's not where they are. As I tell you all the time, now they're working on all the small details, which together are a bunch of big details on when he gets paid, how much he gets paid, how it's paid out. The guarantees, the injury stuff, like all those kind of things are being worked out right now. I don't think that they're at the point of I want X and you want X. I mean, if they are, and they probably are to a certain extent, now that I think about it, they're not exactly at the number, but they're close. Because if they're not, Brock's not here. I mean, that's just how it is. That's just a tactic. And we can all sit there and go, but look at Brock, and he's so nice, and his family, and this and that, and he loves football. It has nothing to do with that. And at these particular points, an agent will say, look, I get it. I work for you, but this is how it works. So just believe in me on this, because most agents, look, they want the money. I get it. They're not going to turn down a guy that's going to make, anywhere from $260 to $290 million on a contract. None of that's, like I said, we know what's funny money and what's guaranteed and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of money on a contract. But part of it is when he's becoming that agent is like, in these key situations, you got to listen to me, because I will do what's right. And I've negotiated, hundreds of these contracts. So just stay with me on this. I'll get you the money. I'll get you in on camp on time. We'll get you there when you want to be there. We'll do all those kind of things, but you got to listen to me in these situations. Brock Purdy and his family's not going to go, we don't care, because there's a players union. There's a responsibility to other players. That's when they talk about how, the players that came before you. Well, those players thought about the players behind them and said, look, I have a responsibility to get the most money. I have a responsibility to get paid at a certain level. I'm not going to take a big discount. Now, Brady can do that at the end of his career. Guys like that, they've already established their value. So there's a big part of that is concerned. So it's a complicated kind of a situation. But again, to answer your question in a very long roundabout way, and I apologize for that, it's positive. And it's going to get done sooner rather than later. That's what I think. Let's hit this. Now, this is Brant Boyer, and he's the special teams coach of the 49ers. And he's dictionary definition. He's straight out of Central Casting. If you said, what does a special teams coach look and sound like? It would be this guy. I don't know that I buy his theory here. He brings in a long snapper that he's familiar with. So Tabor Pepper is out. John Weeks is in. You may not care about that. I think John Week, it almost sounds like John Wick. They are not bringing in John Wick to be the long snapper. That would be amazing if they did, though. There would never be a punt block. Like everybody would get killed at the line of scrimmage. But anyway, I digress. His name is John Weeks. I think he's about 38, 39 years old, and Brant Boyer knows him and trusts him and thinks that's going to give Jake Moody a lot of confidence.
Finally being healthy is a huge deal. I think, like I said, adding Weeks is a big deal for him. So that total operation and being smooth and everything like that will certainly help the kid for sure.
That's courtesy of our good friend Tracy Sandler, Fangirl Sports Network. She does a really great job in covering the 49ers, and that's Brant Boyer. And he says by having John Weeks to kind of settle down the whole scheme of things, the whole product, that's going to give confidence to Jake Moody. Now, he knows a hell of a lot more about special teams and football than I do. But I don't think, maybe I'm wrong. I'd have to ask Tabor Pepper. Did they have problems with snaps that I don't remember? I mean, these were kicks that Jake Moody should have made. I don't remember snaps being a problem. I don't remember holds being a problem. I don't know that in a kicker's head, I've got to get Joe Nedney on. I don't know if in a kicker's head that as he's approaching the ball, he's thinking to himself, my long snapper sucks. My holder sucks. Maybe that is in their head. Maybe all of that is in their head in that brief moment. I think it's just about Jake Moody. Jake Moody with Tabor Pepper as the long snapper made 2 50-plus yard field goals in the Super Bowl. I was there. I saw it. I've also been there to see him shank 39-yarders and 41-yarders, and it was the same snapper and the same holder. So, I just think it's Jake, and he's in his head. And I'm sure at the end of the year they talked about this. I'm sure they got him into some sports psychologist that is supposed to be one of the best because the 49ers can do that. So it just comes down to Jake making kicks. Like, he can say all these different things and bring in these different guys, and maybe that does change his mental state that, hey, this guy's a great long snapper. I thought Tabor Pepper was okay, but what do I know about long snapping and special teams? But to me, it just comes down to, if I'm the 49ers and I know they brought in the Lou Groza award winner, a kid out of Louisiana Tech, that's okay. By the way, they're not bringing in Justin Tucker. I've already gotten that. Will they bring in Justin Tucker? No, they will not. He's kind of a Deshaun Watson type, and he's a great kicker. He's not coming here. But I still think like a Nick Folk or somebody like that, and I know Folk is 40 years old, but he's kind of like Robbie Gould in that, what was it, like 54 or 55 and in, he's money. So I think you have to bring in real competition. And I don't think the Lou Groza award winner from Louisiana Tech, who was undrafted, I don't know that is real competition. I want to see a guy who has done it in this league for a long time and is mentally tough and really challenges Jake Moody, because I don't know that Jake is going to look over at a guy who's undrafted out of Louisiana Tech and go, this guy's beat me out. Like, you bring in Nick Folk, who's done it for a long time, then I think that Jake Moody's going, okay, I got to step up here. That's the kind of mental state I want to see if he's strong enough, because the entire offseason, Jake Moody went to a sports psychologist and got his mental game in shape. But all it's going to take to unravel all of that is one miss. And it doesn't have to be in the regular season. It doesn't have to be in the playoffs. It doesn't have to be in the Super Bowl. He misses one kick in the preseason at Levi's Stadium. Boo! I don't care if there's 10% of the stadium that's left. I don't care if it's the fourth quarter of a preseason game. If he misses a kick, he's going to hear it. And then it's probably going to unravel everything that he's done. So I'm not, even if he comes into camp and he's kicking great and all these kind of things. And by the way, I don't want to hear what he does in practice. I don't care. I don't care what he does in practice. He can make $1 million. I keep hearing that about Jake Moody. Oh, you should see the guy in practice. You should see the guy in practice. I don't want to see the guy in practice. I want to see the guy in a game make kicks. And that's the reason why they had so many problems. I mean, there were so many problems, and we know this special teams wise, so many plays on special teams that turn tides of games, whether it be fakes or blocks or whatever. But the main reason they had the number that they did in terms of, they had that analytical number that you have the worst special teams was because of Jake Moody misses. And we were all there. We saw it. And there was no rhyme or reason for it. He just lost his confidence. And that's what a kicker does. That's why I didn't want to take him in the third round, because what happens a lot of times is that first kicker goes around the league, no matter how good he is, gets beat up a little bit mentally. Then he goes on to his second team, takes a deep breath, and then he gets it. Most kickers don't stick with their original team. They're just like, okay. And they bounce around a little bit, and then they understand it, and then that's it. I don't like taking them. in the third round. That was major. Like when we talk about the problems with the draft with the Niners, we go, oh, Trey Lance cost them, 3 first-round picks, and they missed this, and they missed that. Well, Jake Moody to me is a missed third rounder, and a third rounder should be starting on their team. Fred Warner's a damn third rounder. I'm not saying they would have got Fred Warner. I'm just saying like a third rounder is nothing to mess with. And that's what they did. It was a sandwich pick. I get it, between the third and fourth round. I call it a third rounder because it makes my case sound better. So anyway, there you go. What else do we have going on today? So we went over everything. Curry's lining. Again, if you missed anything today and you're like, I just joined, man, and why is he not talking about Warriors? Here's what you do. You go back either to the beginning of the show right now on YouTube, John Lund Unleashed, or I'm going to put the chapters up, and then you can just click on the chapters right after the show, and then you can watch the show however you would like. So there you go. Am I screaming? Am I screaming? Am I really screaming? You can let me know. You can tell me. I didn't know I was screaming. It was Jake Moody. Maybe I got into a Draymond Green thing because of Jake Moody. He makes me a little twitchy. So, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to scream anymore. Was I really screaming? The thing is, I'm in this studio, and if it was in my house, believe me, somebody would come in here, but I get loud. So I apologize. I don't mean to scream at you, What time is it? It's like almost 10 o'clock in the morning. No, you don't mean screaming at you, doing that kind of stuff. So there you go. All right, what else do we have today? Any questions, comments, thoughts? I will be back later on today, or actually tonight. What time are the Giants playing? Like 5:30, I think, tonight, right? Hey, Siri, what time are the Twins and the Giants playing tonight? I think it's 5:30. Come on, let's go. 5:10. Giants and Twins, 5:10. So 5:10, we'll be back tonight, and we will play a fine version of Bottom of the Pint tonight. Larry Kruger and I will have a lot of fun. So grab your favorite beverage and come on and join us tonight for some Giants talk. I'm Ivrock. It's always great to talk to you, my friend. Moody, it's all mental. That's why I want him to get a fresh start. Yeah, it 100%. I mean, 100%. And the thing is, he can work it and work it and work it and work it in the offseason, and he did. And then he misses a kick, and it's all gone. So that was the only thing, was like, and then you're stuck with him again. And I hope that the kid, look, I don't know anything about the kid from Louisiana Tech that was the Lou Groza Award winner. So I don't have an opinion on him. But to me, if I'm Jake Moody, am I really looking at that as competition? I mean, to a certain extent. Now you bring in a veteran, guy, now you got my attention. Like even a guy like Nick Folk or whomever the case may be. Again, Justin Tucker is not coming here. But you bring in a veteran now, now it's different. See, now people saying I'm not shouting. But yeah, so that's kind of how I see that whole thing. You've got to bring someone in here. Let's see. Who's hungover in the room? Oh, is that what it is? Is Skills hungover and that's why he's yelling? That's why he thinks I'm yelling? Because I didn't think I was. But, again, I'm like Draymond Green in that respect. If we start talking about Jake Moody, I might raise my voice. I might F-bomb an official, something like that. I do get a little worked up about that whole thing. So anyway, what else do we have today? Anything else? As always, I appreciate everybody hanging out and making time for the show today. Really, really appreciate it. We went over everything about the Warriors game last night. By the way, we're going to be busy this weekend. So not only doing the show now, obviously, but then tonight we've got Bottom of the Pint. Then Saturday, we've got the 10 a.m. show, which we will have. And then Saturday night, we'll have a Warriors post-game show that I would love it if you would tune into. So that's what we've got. So we've got double shows basically today and tomorrow. And if there were breaking news or something on Sunday, we would do that. But we may take the Lord's Day off, but who knows? We might just be right back here. So anyway, very, very cool. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I will be back, and it is great to see everybody, by the way, today. I will be back tonight at about 5 o'clock with Larry Kruger and the Krug Show and I. So make sure that you tune in. Make sure you have those alerts on because we'll tell you exactly when we come on. Be prepared tonight. Bring a beverage, whatever you want to do. I think I'll bring a number of adult beverages with me. Hopefully we'll break the streak of Krug and I and them struggling to score runs because it's a lot more fun when they score runs. And we'll have some beverages and we'll hang out tonight at about 5 o'clock Pacific time for Bottom of the Pint, Giants, and Twins. Everybody have a wonderful day today. I'll talk to you tonight. Then tomorrow morning, if you can't make it tonight for Bottom of the Pint, tomorrow at 10 a.m. we'll preview Game 3 between the Timberwolves and the Warriors. Look some more at the 49ers as they continue their rookie camp. And then We'll have a post-game show tomorrow night. So very busy stuff. Everybody have a great rest of your Friday.
Thanks for hanging out with John Lund Unleashed. We'll try to be better next time, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Please like and subscribe on the John Lund Unleashed Pod YouTube channel. Watch live shows weekdays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, Instagram, and X. And make sure to have your alerts on for shows throughout the day or night. All things Lund can be found at johnlundunleashed.com. johnlundunleashed.com.
Goodbye!